traveling to places like the Florida Keys and to Sanibel when I was doing work there, going to Blackbeard Island or to the Piedmont Refuge in Georgia, places like that. And I did like to take my family. I have 5 boys, and he's the only one who has gone into this field. As a consequence, I'm proud to say that all my boys have done well and are doing well and turned out well. And to me, there's no better way of doing that than introducing them to the outdoors and to nature, and then let them make their own choices as to what their life's work going to be. And of course, I'm especially proud of Dan, you like people to follow what you've done. It gives you a good feeling. And he's done well, and he's going to do better.
Please welcome to the stage, Dan Ashe.
I did not know they were going to do that. That was special. And Jeff Haskett and people who said that that's a long walk, they haven't gone through Senate confirmation. We stand on shoulders of giants. It's a phrase we use often, and it's a concept in full view today. We have the rare chance to hear from 3 people who led our agency during 3 very different times. Steve Williams was a veteran in Fish and Wildlife Conservation before he became director of the Fish and Wildlife Service in 2002. Steve came to the directorship after serving as the secretary of the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. During the 3 years that Steve served as director, he solidified our relationship with our state Fish and Wildlife Agency partners, and he took special efforts to enrich our relationship with the sport fishing and hunting communities. He advanced cooperative conservation partnerships, traveling across the country, always with the message that conservation is not a one-agency goal. Steve today is president of the Wildlife Management Institute, which is also a vital and vibrant member of the CARE organization. Our second participant, Jamie Clark, spent 20 years in government service, the overwhelming majority of it with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, where she served as director from 1997 to 2001. Note those years. Jamie was at the helm in 1997 when Congress passed the National Wildlife Refuge System Improvement Act. And Jamie was director when we all came together in Keystone, Colorado for the Fulfilling the Promise conference. I was also honored to serve as chief of the National Wildlife Refuge System when Jamie Clark was director, and then also during a portion of the time when Steve Williams was director. And during Jamie's time as director, she launched the Safe Harbor program within the Endangered Species Program and others that still today enrich our work with private landowners in voluntary wildlife conservation. She and her organization are at the forefront as advocates on behalf of national wildlife refuges and wildlife conservation. Our third guest today is Lynn Greenwald. Lynn was born into the refuge system, literally. His father, Ernest, was refuge manager at Wichita Mountain National Wildlife Refuge in Oklahoma, where Lynn was born. In fact, his father worked for the refuge system for more than 30 years. Lynn spent his formative childhood years at Wichita Mountains, and if you look back around hard enough, you might find a picture of 6-year-old Lynn wearing a cowboy costume with the refuge vista in the background. Lynn began his Fish and Wildlife Service career with summer jobs at Wichita Mountain in 1946 while he was earning a bachelor's degree. And all these years later, he's never lost his love of the refuge system or the land. Lynn served as director of the Fish and Wildlife Service from 1973 to 1981. After his retirement from federal service, he worked as a vice president for public policy at the National Wildlife Federation. He also served on the Refuge System's Centennial Commission as we planned our birthday in 2003. And I'll say a special little, I'll share a little vignette about Lynn. When as you know, my father worked for the Fish and Wildlife Service for 37 years. He spent the first 17 years of his career in Atlanta, Georgia, working in the regional office. I was born in Atlanta. He spent the last 17 years of his career in Massachusetts as deputy regional director of Region 5. There was a 4-year period of time when we moved 3 times. And that was when I was in high school. I went to 3 different high schools. And a few years ago, I asked my father, we were spending time together, and I said, so what was with that, you know? And he said, well, every time I got settled in a job, Lynn Greenwald would call me and ask me to do something else. But as Lynn comes up here, he comes up here with the title retired behind his name, but don't believe it. This is a man who is far from what I would consider retired. All 3 of these people led this agency during challenging times. I'm not only pleased to introduce them, but I'm thrilled to call them colleagues and, more importantly, friends. So let's welcome these 3 wonderful people to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate that. I was struck as I was listening to Dan's remarks and the remarks about, of course, his own family and Jamie and Lynn's, and I don't have that pedigree, unfortunately, of working for the Fish and Wildlife Service for a long time. But I did have the distinct honor and privilege to serve as a director for 3 years, and I do have a perspective coming from the state side of things, and now a perspective as president of an NGO. And it didn't take me long after I came to D.C. To realize a few things. One is that D.C. is a really hard place to live and work, but more importantly, it didn't take me long to realize, and honestly, I didn't necessarily bring this impression or perception into the office, but it sure didn't take me long to realize the tremendous commitment, dedication, knowledge, skills that Fish and Wildlife Service employees had and continue to have. So I was very, very impressed. Everywhere I went, everyone I talked to, and looking at the projects that you all accomplished. I've said this numerous times, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I don't think there was a day that went by when I had the opportunity to serve as director that I wasn't impressed at least once a day with something that I heard you all were doing, or when I got to go on the road, which I did quite a bit, and took a little ribbing for that. But I heard today Secretary Salazar, said kind of what I thought, that the real work gets done out in the field, in the ecological services offices, and the fish hatcheries, and the refuges, the law enforcement folks. And my drawing was always away from DC to out to where you folks, did the incredible jobs that you did. So it was quite an honor, and I just wanted to sort of this curtain call say thank you to everybody at the Fish and Wildlife Service for making me feel like family, for providing 3 of the most incredible years that I've ever had and will ever have in my career. Having said that, I couldn't be happier that Dan Ashe is serving as your director now. There were a number of groups, many groups, across DC and across the country that were very anxious to see that Dan was nominated and confirmed. We weren't as anxious as Dan was. I can tell you that from personal experience. But a lot of groups, did their best to make sure that the Fish and Wildlife Service got a director they deserved, and in Dan Ashe, you do. A committed wildlife professional, and I couldn't be happier. This conference is, if I could tweet, which I can't. I don't know my book from face space or whatever that stuff is. But I don't think I could do it in 140 words, I think, or characters, whatever that is. But I guess I'd have to say this is just an incredible event. It's amazing. The energy that's in this room, that's been in the hallways, it's been in the sessions, is I shouldn't be surprised. I guess I should just expect that from the Fish and Wildlife Service and all the conservation partners that are represented here today. So I'm quite pleased to be here, honored to be, again, to be in front of you folks for a few seconds or a few minutes. The vision document that you put together, I think, is a tremendous start to the future of the National Wildlife Refuge System. I'm pleased, and I have to do this everywhere I go, pleased to see that there is an inclusion of the traditional, some of the traditional and first conservationists, the hunters and anglers in this country, recognition of the role that they play in conservation across the country and the role they play with the National Wildlife Refuge System. So from that sector of the constituents that the service provide or services, I want to say thank you for that. It is a visionary document. It's tough, it's ambitious, but that's what visionary documents are supposed to be. I applaud you all for the work you've done putting this together. I applaud you all for the openness and the involvement, very active involvement of trying to get the public to have a say in how the National Wildlife Refuge System is run now and into the future. And with that, again, thank you for this opportunity. Congratulations, Dan, again. And it's my pleasure to introduce Jamie Clark, who was the Fish and Wildlife Service Director immediately before me. So, Jamie.
Well, good afternoon. I'm so delighted to be here among so many friends and former colleagues. I can't tell you how good it feels. It feels like I've come home again. It's so great to see so many of you. I'd be remiss if I didn't have at least a few words about Dan Ashe before I start my remarks. I couldn't be more delighted with Dan as your director. You have a gem, and he is the right person at the right time to lead the Fish and Wildlife Service. He was, as he mentioned, Dan and I worked very closely together while I was at the service. And in fact, Dan was probably the most instrumental person in helping me get through the confirmation process. He teed me up. He, along with many, followed me around with these ginormous notebooks of information to learn, which I studiously memorized in preparation for meeting all those that you have to meet before Senate confirmation. And then we trundled off to see then the Senate Environment and Public Works Chair, John Chafee, who was the most amazing conservationist and a special favorite of all of ours, obviously. And so I had studied everything. I knew, how many hatcheries, the importance and the specifics of each hunting framework. I knew, the refuges. I knew all about ES. And I go in there with all my knowledge, and Dan and I are sitting down, And Senator Chafee looks at me and he goes, "I don't really care about the facts. I figure you must know them. Tell me your vision." And I about had a stroke. What's exciting about this week and the journey that you've been on and will continue is the importance of taking the long view, the importance of visioning and thinking to the future. While living in the moment is important, it's the vision that you are developing, we are all developing this week, that is so exciting. National Wildlife Refuges in particular hold such a special place in my heart. My husband Jim and I were actually married almost 22 years ago on a small refuge off the coast of Texas, Matagorda Island. I was asked, and I declared it so, that it was a compatible use of that refuge at the time. But Jim was the refuge manager there, and we were married by this terrific, I think, minister, the maintenance worker at Aransas. I learned an awful lot about the system being married to a refuge employee. In fact, Jim's fondest memories of his time as a service employee was the years he spent at NCTC overseeing the Refuge Training Academy and witnessing firsthand the commitment and passion of so many folks dedicated to protecting these special lands, and I've really enjoyed seeing so many of you here this week. As some of you know, both he and my son Carson are nature photographers, and Blackwater, Chincoteague, and Canaan Valley are some of their favorite destinations for shoots near our home. Sometimes, and I emphasize sometimes, if I promise to be patient and quiet, they actually even let me tag along. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen very often. I have visited dozens of refuges over the years for both business and pleasure, and I often now find myself reflecting on many of those visits while I'm working in my office in D.C. In fact, a good bit of my conservation career highlights seem to be rooted in those memories. Releasing black-footed ferrets on Charles M. Russell, watching baby sea turtles erupt out of the sand and scurry to the water at Archie Carr, reflecting on refuge history at Pelican Island while we were planting native grasses as we began to prepare for the system's centennial anniversary, observing huge flocks of sandhill cranes as they descended on the flats at Bosque del Apache, hiking over the rise and being overwhelmed at the only way I can describe it are wallows of walrus at Togiak, experiencing sensory overload birding at Rio Grande, and canoeing the quiet, dark waters of Okefenokee with my good friend Sam Hamilton. These memories were all made possible not only because of the refuges themselves, but because of the many people, from the hardworking and dedicated refuge staff and volunteers to the partners and friends that keep the refuges going day to day and provide the experiences of a lifetime. National Wildlife Refuges have truly played a critical role in the conservation of wildlife and wild places, but they also play a key role for people. As our country becomes more and more urbanized, and we've heard a lot about that this week, refuges have become even more important, providing a unique experience for so many, both young and old, who might not otherwise have the opportunity to enjoy splashing in the ocean, catching a fish, hiking and birding along trails teeming with wildlife, or kayaking or canoeing through silent waters. Not only do refuges provide these experiences, but they truly teach us all a respect for nature and the true sense of stewardship. Conservation is surely becoming more increasingly complex in this warming world of ours, and refuges as true jewels and anchors of biological diversity will provide some of the best opportunities for wildlife to survive and thrive in this challenging and changing world. We can't overestimate the importance for connectivity and for our conservation future. Defenders of Wildlife has been a friend to the refuge system for decades. We've consistently advocated for funding, for expansion of refuges, and for recognition of their importance for conservation. I'm particularly happy to be here to continue that support and to cheer on the effort that is gathering exciting steam this week. During these challenging times, especially with budget, and we heard pretty compelling and sobering news from the Secretary this morning. We're redoubling our efforts in the community to provide a much-needed voice and a loud voice to get the message out about the importance of conservation investments for now and the future, and how unacceptable today's behavior in Congress is. We have a lot of work to do, but we want you to know that you have lots of friends and voices to support your efforts. I've been asked a number of times since I arrived late yesterday about Keystone. I remember well our time in Keystone back in 1998, which was, as Dan mentioned, the first large gathering of refuge system managers and colleagues in history. While some thought it was a risky endeavor to gather that many people to discuss the future of the National Wildlife Refuge System, there was no denying the excitement, the passion, and the electricity as the meeting got underway. I was confident then that the decision to assemble a group of folks who loved the land so much was absolutely the right thing to do. There were so many ties that bound that group together, organizational identities just melted away. We were one service, we were one conservation community, working together to conserve and protect our special places set aside for wildlife. I feel that same sense of excitement and commitment here this week in Madison. As we move forward, let's not retrace our steps since Keystone, but instead build upon them with new ideas that lead to bold conservation actions on every refuge. The National Wildlife Refuge System Improvement Act has the strongest stewardship responsibilities of any land management statute today. We must hold the line as we look towards the future. First and foremost, we must continue to put wildlife first and conserve biodiversity in America's most significant ecosystems, reaching out across generations, cultures, and institutional boundaries for help and support. As we step from vision to practice, we must ensure that refuges have the appropriate policies in place to ensure that wildlife continue to take first priority in the face of mounting conservation pressures. We must conserve wildlife on their terms, engaging the whole ecological neighborhood in refuge planning so that species are protected throughout their range, not just within refuge boundaries. We must better protect America's wildlife from new and worsening environmental threats, continuing our efforts on conserving trust resources, but also by broadening our efforts to identify and conserve those species, habitats, and ecological processes that best indicate and contribute to the ecological health and integrity of the refuge system. We must ensure that refuges remain healthy as anchors of biological diversity, articulating a clear strategy for land acquisition that will allow wildlife to navigate through a warming world and the refuge system to adapt and remain relevant in conservation for generations to come. We must reach out to a wider, more urban, and more diverse audience to help repair the American public's growing detachment from the natural world and reinvigorate the public's commitment to protecting it. We've had an important job to do here this week in Madison, but that job doesn't end here. Whether we're refuge managers or maintenance workers, budget analysts, human resources specialists, friends, volunteers, or partners, each one of us has a critical role to play in transforming our shared vision into reality. And I'm confident that we will succeed, and I'm eager to be a partner in that success. When I left the service, gosh, it's about a decade ago, I knew I'd continue, after I got over the shock of it, I knew I'd continue my career as an unabashed advocate for what you do and as a liberated voice of high expectations. I have such an unwavering respect for the Fish and Wildlife Service. I hope you continue to stand tall and think big, think long-term, that you ensure that science matters, and that as we face the increasing needs to balance our natural resources legacy with other competing demands, you make sure that the conservation of wildlife in special places take a backseat to nothing. I am reminded every day about the importance of our work together and in particular the role of the National Wildlife Refuge System to the success of our collective conservation mission when I pursue my greatest passion, being a mom to my now 12-year-old son. I'm sobered by the notion that we may be the first generation to pass on a lesser quality environment to our children than we inherited ourselves. And I find that just unacceptable and irresponsible. We need to hold ourselves accountable and remember that those coming behind us deserve at least the same riches that we ourselves have enjoyed. I can think of no one who can help urge us on more as we chart the vision for the National Wildlife Refuge System than our next speaker. Lynn Greenwald is a great friend and has been with the refuge system every step of the way. I particularly remember his timeless and inspiring words as he spoke at Keystone. And it is your obligation to move forward in a way that does not denigrate, dilute, or diminish in the slightest degree that which came before you. Because many thousands of men and women gave their careers, and some even gave their lives for what you are working towards, saving dirt. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce one of the best there is at saving dirt, Lynn Greenwald.
You're great. Thank you so much. It's been a long time since Keystone. So many things have happened. So many changes have been made. Yet, it's still very much the same. Here I am facing 1,000 of my friends, 1,000 devotees of the things we care about, 1,000 professionals of unparalleled ability. I need to share with you a couple of simple explanations and recitation of events. Some of you may know that some months ago I was reminded of my mortality. All of us face that at one time or another. And when the word spread miraculously, as it always does in this organization, I began to receive cards and notes and letters and occasional calls, and I want to take this time to thank you for doing so, because you helped a somewhat apprehensive old man realize that people still care. No greater blessing can flow to any person. Now I'm in good health. The only scars I bear beyond the ones you'll never see in the front of me is a curious change in my voice that sometimes comes with these sorts of operations. And though I once sounded like Gregory Peck, as you all remember, I now sound as I do at present. And it's a little disconcerting, but you can chalk it up to emotion, because before I'm through my few minutes, I am likely to become extraordinarily emotional, because it is one of those times when I have the rare opportunity to stand before such a group and talk about my expectations of you and your opportunities. Keystone was the keystone, that critical block that holds up the arch. This one may be referred to by some as the capstone. Don't let it imply that there is no greater height to reach, because it is not true. I think it will also be, as somebody suggested, a touchstone, because you will constantly be reminded of that which went before. So many people have stood on this stage, so many people who are so kind to me have said things about those who have gone before, that I almost decided not to say anything about that until I came here, and with a strange convergence of events, I looked up, and there on the screen, and you will have seen it, is a picture of a pair of refuge employees, each wearing a fedora. Now, that's not done much anymore, but in one time that was done. One of them sits in a Jeep, and the other one stands on the outside with a state-of-the-art Motorola two-way radio that weighed about 28 pounds. And if the sun was down, it would transmit 3 miles. Oh, providing you stood on the top of the truck. The one holding the radio is my father. But almost more important to me is the other person who came to train under my father many years ago, and he brought with him a blithe spirit, a brilliant companion, and one of the most extraordinary women I have ever met. She has been my wife for nearly 56 years now. And so it's impossible to ignore the idea that permeating this organization is the tendril, the indeed tap roots of relationships and direct blood relationships. And it gets even more ramified when you think about it. There are many people in this room whose fathers or mothers perhaps were refuge employees or Fish and Wildlife Service employees. And the connections get interesting and complicated. You all know Denny Holland, and anybody who doesn't know Denny Holland and his wife, Kathy, has been in a closet someplace for a good many years. Denny and I are co-grandparents because his daughter married my son. Oh, his daughter works for the Fish and Wildlife Service, and her name is Holland, and she works in migratory birds. Isn't that strange? I was brought up with somebody who is famous, or should be to everyone, the longest serving maintenance man in the history of the refuge system, Edwin Drummond, Wichita Mountains. Oh, by the way, his father worked on the Wichita Refuge and was one of the key individuals involved in getting the longhorn cattle herds reestablished with the exact bloodlines of the old Mexican cattle. It is possible to find this connection everywhere. I ran into somebody the other day who has what I would call an outgoing personality. And he stood in front of me and presented his profile and said, "Who does this remind you of?" And all I could say was the statue of Crazy Horse. Actually, it was Barry Stieglitz. And I perceive he was not offended, but his father and I were colleagues. There are many examples of this. I think there's almost a trend being set. But what it says to me is that there is in this organization a special bond that comes from working together in good times and bad, doing things you love to do. I am convinced that there is no one in this room, nor is there anyone who reports to people in this room that works for the Fish and Wildlife Service who does not enjoy his or her job. The most pathetic individual on the planet is the person who is working at something he does not like to do. My advice to them, and I have encountered them all my life, is find something else to do. Life is too short to torment yourself. I sense no torment in this organization. You are remarkable. You are wonderful. You are superior in every way. Now, I can say that because I'm an old man and I don't have to answer to anybody, but I believe it. You are an organization that has started going forward from Keystone when I spoke of saving dirt. That's the simple thing. That's the objective. It's getting there that's tough. And yet, you've moved ahead to a degree that I could not have fathomed even at Keystone, let alone when I entered that corner office in the interior building more than 29 years ago. I actually entered it 36 years ago. I've been away for 29 years, career's worth. It's been a long time, but when I entered that office, it was a different place, a different world in which we lived. Now it's more complicated, more difficult. And I have to say, I have a little secret that I harbor this great thankfulness that I do not have to compete with the people who work in this organization now, or else I would have remained a maintenance man on Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge, where I once worked in that capacity. You are different. And I'm glad, because the extraordinary things that will be asked of you require something beyond the ordinary. Now, there's been much discussion about tough times and challenges, and it's possible that it may get rather grim. Grim times have come into our world many times since I was born. And I remember the pioneers who faced those obstacles, and they must have been great frustration when things didn't go smoothly. I have been privileged in my 80 years to meet a great many of the people whose names you hear recited to you as the champions of conservation. Clark Salyer and Ira Gabrielson took meals at my mother's table many years ago. I've known many of these people, and they faced challenges, and they overcame them. You are men and women who make me so proud, so pleased to be here with you, because it is, with the single exception of being in the bosom of my small family, 5 grandchildren, for whom you do what you do. With that exception, I can think of no other place on this planet I would rather be than in the company of my bride, whom you should meet if you have not. You will know why I am as I am. There is no place I'd rather be than in your company. The company of professionals who exhibit all the characteristics that have been suggested to you in the last 2 days: courage and tenacity innovation, imagination, vision, energy, vigor. All the things it takes to succeed. Judy and I go as often as we can to wildlife refuges and fish hatcheries and other parts of the service organization because there's something about meeting with those people whom we invariably surprise because we like it that way. There is something about meeting them that takes us home again full of enthusiasm because it's working well, it's clear, it's obvious. The aim of an organization like yours is to serve well the people of the United States in behalf of the wild creatures and the places they live. Dan Ashe, your new director, and a remarkable young man. He is very young. Everybody is younger than I am, and that's a good reference point. I can be very patronizing toward people who are younger than I am. He will give you a charge and an admonition, I'm sure, in just a few moments. But I want to leave you with one as well. Remember that you are the National Wildlife Refuge System, which is a part of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, taken as a whole, of which there is no peer. I feel there is no better organization, no better equipped or educated or trained or settled in their minds to do the things you're going to be asked to do. And as you go forward and as you undertake these activities, remember also to look after yourselves. Jim Kurth, who is one of the finest public speakers I have ever heard in my life, and I hope you agree, had said that he felt an obligation, he said to me after his speech, to speak about the spouses. And I echo that. Every one of you, if you're as fortunate or half as fortunate as I have been, has a helpmeet, a person who makes it work for you. Do not diminish your relationship with those people for the job. They're part of what you need to succeed. I think we ought to have a memorial, a monument, and a set of aphorisms, perhaps, at NCTC honoring spouses. We really must, because I can think of many such persons who've made all the difference in the world. If you ever were stationed, let us say, at Coal Bay in Alaska, an understanding wife or husband is like money in the bank. Even if you were no more remotely situated than at Fish Springs in Utah, it's great to have someone who understands. Now, I got mine ready-made because she was brought up on a refuge. But some wives I have met over time are not quite like that, and they sacrifice a great deal. Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Now, there comes a time when I have to sit down. I have to go be quiet for a moment. But there is one thing I will say that I said at Keystone, and it becomes less and less practical to speak these words, but I will speak them nonetheless. If my blithe spirit, my radiant bride, and I were just a little younger, I would give everything I have to go with you this time. I love you all. It's easy for me to say, but it is easy because it is true. I love you all because you are my life and my recollection. Between the man with the 28-pound radio and you people lies this vast assemblage of folks, some long gone, some still around, that makes an organization that is unlike any other I know of. And I echo Secretary Salazar's enthusiasm when he says, "You're the best." I wish I could go with you. Bless you all, and thank you very much.
Let's go out here and get a picture in the middle. We'll go stand in the middle for a second. Thanks, Jimmy. Stand up here. Stand together. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Come on. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. For all of us that were at the opening reception the other night, that's like a hola wah, right? Well, this is my first chance to address a large gathering of Fish and Wildlife Service employees and conservation partners since being confirmed and sworn in as director. It'd be 2 weeks ago tomorrow. It's a deep honor to serve in this role. And I want to thank you all for your kind words and your encouragement during the process during which I was being considered for confirmation. And I promise you I'll do my very best. And I ask for your help in that effort. We have a lot of work to do. We need to do it together. After I was sworn in, I got hundreds of congratulatory messages, emails from people throughout the service and in our partner organizations. They were all memorable and special in their own way. David Viker, Region 4 Regional Refuge Chief, sent along what he called a heartfelt Southern shout-out on behalf of Region 4 Refuge employees. It was in 36-point font. So to give everyone here that same shout out, David has helped me assemble a team to give a hand in giving a good old-fashioned Southern shout out. And so I think that team is going to join me up here on the stage.
Please welcome to the stage Emery Hoyle, James McClelland, Mike Johnson, and Doug Mason.
Come on up. You gonna do it? Emery, hey, Mike. All right. So, okay. So if you're feeling the vision, If you're feeling inspired after 3 days here in Madison, if you're ready to put this vision into practice, then let the entire refuge system hear it. That's a long way. It's got to go from Puerto Rico to Marianas Trench, right? It's got to be ginormously loud, as Jamie Clark would say. So these guys are going to lead us on, so let's go. You got to get up here next to the microphone, and we're going to do it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, we got any instruction? On three? Ready? One. Oh, and you guys are going to help, right? All right, let's rock this place. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah! All right. All right. All right. Now I'm going to ask you to join me in saying thank you to a few special folks. I'm going to ask these people to stand up, and I'm going to ask them to stay standing as I go through these introductions, and then we're going to give them one big National Wildlife Refuge System-sized round of applause. Rowan Gould, the acting director of the service during the last year. He's been there for us when we lost Sam through the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, and his strong and steady leadership helped bring us here to Madison. So Rowan, please stand up. There he is. All right. The National Wildlife Refuge Association and its executive director, Evan Hershey, and his staff, they've been a source of vision and commitment to the future of the refuge system. So, Evan, can you and your staff please stand up? The 70 service employees who worked on the 5 core teams and drafted the vision document. They conceptualized the vision, put together the plan that will be ratified here. So core team members, please stand up. All right. The steering committee and its chair, Greg Sakanik, and the conference planning work group, their efforts in guiding the vision process and planning the conference have been tireless. Steering committee and conference planning work group, please stand. All right. And among those, we're especially thankful to our colleague John Kennedy from the Wyoming Department of Game and Fish for the effort he gave in serving on the steering committee. John made time in his busy schedule and worked tirelessly to ensure that our state colleagues' perspectives were brought into this process. Of course, John. Let's say it for John. Of course, we owe our sincere thanks to everyone that's been a part of this process. It's countless conference calls, meetings, and individual tasks that have resulted in a public engagement, including web-based video, blogging, and tweeting components that are unprecedented in the service history. But these people who are standing deserve our special appreciation. So let's make them feel special with a refuge system-sized round of applause. Woo! 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 Okay, by now, most of you know my story. You saw my dad on the screen. That was special for me. I have a lifelong connection with the Fish and Wildlife Service, as my dad worked for the service for 37 years. And as he said, my brothers, I have 4 brothers, and we got to tag along with Dad on his business trips to exotic and wonderful places. We spent many days exploring refuges like Blackbeard Island, banding birds at places like Piedmont, fishing the waters around Ding Darling with rewards like those that are shown in that photograph. I'm the guy in the middle with the big old flounder. I knew Jack Watson, the legendary and fiery manager of the National Key Deer Refuge. He's standing in this picture with my mother. He carried a Thompson submachine gun in the trunk of his car. and he let us hold it. And I and each of my 4 brothers wanted to grow up to be a refuge manager. In this picture, Jack Watson is standing with my parents outside of the frame. And as we were posing, he warned us, don't get too close and don't make any sudden moves. Well, I'm the guy bending over there to get the bird's eye view. And a second later, that bird flared up and jumped up at us. And I'm told that the record still stands in Monroe County, Florida for the under 15 barefooted 50-yard dash over oyster shells. At the Keystone Conference in 1998, I shared a boyhood story of walking and exploring the beach at Blackbeard Island off the coast of Georgia, named for the famous pirate. My father's only order on that day was for me and my 4 brothers to stay together. Otherwise, we were free to wander and discover. I gave the same advice to the assembled refuge managers and employees at Keystone. Stay together. You've done well. I'm sure all of you here have similar memories of refuges. They define the way we think about refuges and the way we think about the refuge system. They do for me. But it's important to remember that we're not building a vision for yesterday's refuge system, nor today's. A vision is a description of a desired future state. My dad was a respected leader in the service. And to use an old phrase I've heard again here today, he saved a lot of dirt during his career. Ding Darling in Florida and Sevilleta in New Mexico, 2 of my favorite places, are protected today because of his energy and vision and courage. I'm proud of the refuge system that I knew as a boy. I'm proud of the one that I've helped to lead. And it's important, as Lynn Greenwald reminded us in Keystone and again today, to honor the past. But our challenge is not to look back to the safety of shore, but to have the courage to sail to the horizon and discover the refuge system of tomorrow. The vision that you're helping us to forge is the ship that will carry us there. The memories that we all have provide the inspiration that's going to power that voyage. Watching the cranes and geese at Bosque del Apache, hunting mallards at Cache River, marveling at brown bears at Kodiak Island, walking the Centennial Trail and witnessing the ancient ritual of wood storks nesting at Pelican Island are memories from which I draw strength. Some memories are bittersweet, but still inspire us. The loss of Molly Beatty and Sam Hamilton, great friends and colleagues. We're here, so they're here with us. It's been an amazing week. I know you've worked very hard. I'm impressed. I appreciate the effort and the intensity that's gone into this. I was excited on Tuesday morning when Greg introduced the vision for conserving the future to this enthusiastic crowd of service employees, friends, conservation partners, and citizen conservationists. Our vision for conserving the future addresses challenges such as how will we grow the refuge system, invigorate science on refuges, and apply a landscape approach to conservation. How will we develop new management strategies to respond to a climate-changed world? How will we build a connected conservation constituency? All of these are urgent priorities. Our gathering has been energized throughout the week by the fresh perspectives, insights, and leadership of some great inspirational speakers, Admiral Thad Allen, Doug Brinkley, Sylvia Earle, Curtis Taylor, DeWitt Jones, Majora Carter, Juan Martinez. I'm impressed by the number of younger service employees and youth delegates, as well as the diversity of people and perspectives. I saw two friends and colleagues who are battling cancer, John Taylor and Beth Stevens. Their courage and optimism is a real inspiration. Budget cuts, floods, fire, how hard is that by comparison? Our vision for conserving the future fits hand in glove with our nation's 21st century conservation agenda outlined in the America's Great Outdoors report. I'm grateful to Secretary Salazar for his leadership and for taking his time away from his personal vacation to come here and share his vision and passion for conserving our wildlife heritage. Mr. Secretary, the Fish and Wildlife Service will serve as a powerful army in your campaign to conserve America's great outdoors. We'll lead where we should, and we'll support others when they lead. Conserving the Future outlines the work and the next generation of conservation leaders and for us. Our success in implementing our vision will depend, I believe, on our ability to ensure that people of all ages, geographies, races, and social backgrounds connect to the natural world around them. My daughter played college soccer. Hey, how about that women's national U.S. soccer team? Whoa. Wow. I missed the game with Brazil. So I sent a text to my daughter and I said, wow, what a game. I hope you were watching it. She sent me a text back and said, are you kidding? After her freshman year, she came home with a practice jersey. It had the nickname Hawkeye emblazoned on the back of it. When I asked her where that came from, she said, well, whenever we're practicing or traveling, I'm always the one that's pointing out the geese, the ducks, the woodpeckers, the blue jays, the vultures, the hawk. I can't tell you how proud that made me. Because she had the chance to grow up with nature. Those birds are in her. No amount of education, urbanization, or ambition can take it away. And because they're in her, they'll be in her children. The same thing is happening for thousands of young Americans who are connecting with nature through experiences on National Wildlife Refuges. Our refuge hunting, fishing, education, and interpretation programs across the country can enhance those experiences. Tomorrow's conservation leaders are among those people, those young refuge visitors. Thinking about that makes me hopeful and optimistic for the future. Aldo Leopold's words ring truer than ever. It is inconceivable to me that an ethical relation to land can exist without love, respect, and admiration for the land, and a high regard for its value. By value, of course, I mean something far broader than mere economic value. I mean value in the philosophical sense. That's a call to action for each of us, both professional and citizen conservationists. We must move forward, working together to face the complex challenges of the 21st century and bring to our work a sense of urgency. Now it is time to act. It's time to get to work. I have high expectations of all of you to see this vision implemented. It'll take all of our best efforts and years of hard work. and I want to be clear about my expectations. First, I'm asking the refuge system staff to take the work we've done this week and incorporate the best ideas into the final vision for conserving the future wildlife refuges and the next generation. I want the final vision document completed by Refuge Week in mid-October. I want the vision to define a future state, but I want it to respect the past and the partnerships and traditions that have brought us to this point in time. The refuge system leadership team will guide the implementation of our vision. I'm signing a charter today that spells out that charge. The leadership team will meet in October and lay out a detailed set of priorities and timelines for implementation of the final vision. I'm establishing today the first 3 vision implementation teams. The first team will be charged with finalizing policy for strategically growing the refuge system. We need a rapid, top-to-bottom review of current land acquisition projects. We need clear priorities with biological objectives in order to decide how many new projects we can take on and how to select those projects. We've talked about this for years. This is the moment to get it done. I expect a charter for this team and selection of its members in 30 days. There are many important wildlife and habitat management challenges in our vision for conserving the future. We'll not succeed in these endeavors unless we have strong support from a connected conservation community. People have to be a key component in our conservation strategy. The recommendation for a new urban refuge initiative is exciting and innovative. It's clear we need some of our best thinkers to flesh out the details of how we can invest in great urban refuges we already have in places like Denver, Minneapolis, San Francisco, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Portland. The service has made innovative conservation forays into cities with urban bird treaties. How can we bring all of the service's conservation capacities together to encourage a new generation, a new conservation constituency in America's great cities? This will be the charge for the second implementation team. I expect a charter for this team and selection of its members in 30 days. We have a lot of work to do. There's nothing more important to me as director than developing the next generation of conservation leaders. How can we provide more effective mentoring and coaching of our employees? How do we plan for a workforce that'll have the skills needed for the future? How will we plan for succession in a workforce from which many seasoned leaders will retire over the next 5 years? How will we provide the technical and leadership training to build competencies and advance our employees? How will we have an inclusive workforce that reflects the diversity of America? To answer these questions, I'm chartering a new leadership development council that builds on the successful approach we used to implement Fulfilling the Promise after Keystone. Its task will be to take on the vision recommendations for leadership and organizational excellence. I expect a charter for this team and selection of its members in 45 days. I can be a little bit reasonable. On the topic of leadership, I want to take just a second to cite an example and also to say thank you to someone who represents, I believe, what we mean when we say step up to leadership. He's likely the only person that I know of whose copy of Fulfilling the Promise is more dog-eared and written in than mine is. Shortly after the Keystone Conference, I was looking for someone with field experience and credibility to help lend a hand in leading the system and implementing the new vision. I spoke to many leaders of the day, Several people were suggested, and fortunately, the best among them answered the call. And for me personally, and for the refuge system and the Fish and Wildlife Service, it's made all the difference. Jim Kurth picked up his family. He left a dream job as manager of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge and came to Washington, D.C. I want to say thanks to Jim. I want to say thanks to his wife, Trish. And I want to say to all of you younger people in the audience, people who I've talked to this week, Keenan, Bridget, Sabrina, many of you others. Yeah, I see you out there. One day, someone's going to call. They're going to ask you to take a job, and it's not going to be the right time. Mark Twain said, "In the real world, nothing happens at the right place at the right time." At that moment, I want you to think of what Jim Kurth must have been thinking when I called him, and what his beautiful bride must have said when he talked to her. But he stepped up, and we're all the better for it. The vision we're writing here would just be words on paper unless you step up when it's your turn. There are many more recommendations in our vision for conserving the future, and I expect action on all of them, prioritized action. I expect progress reports and continued engagement and leadership of the entire service directorate. I expect every service employee to take personal responsibility. That's a key component of leadership, personal responsibility. Ask yourself, what can I do? To be successful, we'll need the continued support of our state Fish and Wildlife Agency colleagues. Our conservation partners' support will be critical, as it always has been. And we need our friends groups, now more than ever. We've spent a lot of time this week talking about the unprecedented challenges that we face. Climate change is an ecological game changer. A growing nation continues to fragment habitat, use more ever-scarce water, and demand more energy of all kinds. Our changing America has a population with less experience in the outdoors. Will they care about conserving wild places and wild things? Will they know that hunters and anglers have been the backbone of conservation in America? I know the budget climate has many worried. Will we have the resources to turn our vision into a reality? Worse yet, will deep cuts destroy the progress that we've made, that Lynn Greenwald testified to? I'm not afraid of the future and its challenges, and you should not be either. But it's more important than ever that we have a clear vision, shared priorities, and common commitments to navigate through the days and years ahead. The energy of this historic gathering will carry us forward if we stay together. When we gathered at Keystone in 1998, we never envisioned the challenges that the next decade would bring. Terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, the economic collapse of 2008. Who thought that accelerating climate change would cause us to list the polar bear as a threatened species 10 years later? But we've navigated these challenges and we've emerged stronger. We have 37 new refuges, 57 million more protected acres, 10,000 more volunteers, 10 million more visitors. We did it because we had a shared vision and because of your passionate dedication and professionalism. Not just refuge system employees, all service employees and great colleagues and partners in organizations like the Nature Conservancy, Ducks Unlimited, and the states. We did it together. I'm betting sometime, maybe about 2025, there will be another gathering like this one. They'll marvel at the progress that has been made. They'll be grateful that we had a vision for conserving the future. We cannot know with any certainty what our accomplishments will be, but we know with certainty that we will have accomplishments, and that our vision for conserving refuges in a landscape context, for strong science in the refuge system, for a connected conservation constituency, and for leadership and excellence is the foundation for those accomplishments. We know we'll save more dirt. We know our nation's precious wildlife heritage will be conserved. Let's stay together. Let's get to work. I want to thank you for all you do to conserve our nation's fish and wildlife. And I want to thank you for your service to our nation. Thank you for being here and for your hard work this week. Thank you for what you will do to conserve the future for our National Wildlife Refuges and for the next generation. Thank you very much.
Well done. Well done. Well, Director Ashe,
First duty.
well done. Yes, first duty. As we did a little bit this morning with the Secretary, we had tried to build in a few minutes to ask a few questions that are coming in again on Twitters and tweets and text, whatever they are. And I got a few.
All right.
All right. Softball or?
Softball. Yeah, that'd be good. Softer the better.
All right. Softball starts, but then it's coming at you. We are elementary students in Arlington, Virginia, doing a science project. If we visited a National Wildlife Refuge, where should we go?
Oh. Well, the easiest way to answer that question is tell them that if you're in Arlington, then the best place to go is Mason Neck National Wildlife Refuge, which is right around the corner. But if you are thinking ambitiously, then I would think about Blackbeard Island National Wildlife Refuge, which is one of my personal favorites. It's off the coast of Georgia.
Very good. All right, no more softballs.
No more so.
Text message from New Haven, Connecticut. Uh-oh, that's where my daughter's hanging out. How do we balance wildlife and human adaptation as we decide what to do about climate change?
Wildlife and human adaptation. Well, I think really that's what it's all about, is balancing wildlife and human adaptation. And I mean, when we think about it, it's human ecology that's driving wildlife on the planet. We have about 300 million people in the nation now. We are going to have, by 2050, it's predicted that we may have as many as 390 million people. Population as a whole in the world is growing. We want to, not only will we have more people, we'll have more affluent people. We all want to increase our quality of life. People in Asia and Indonesia and Africa want to be more like us. They deserve to be more like us, with better access to health care and education and transportation. So as we have more people in the world, more affluent people, we use more land, more water, more energy, more ecological space, which means there's going to be less space in the world for everything else, the things that we're responsible for. So our job really is to balance as human populations adapt, as human populations grow. It's our responsibility to find ways to bring wildlife along, but we also have to make difficult choices because the simple ecology and physics of it is that there's not room for everything. And so we are challenged with the idea and the potential of making choices. And that's, I think, going to be the most difficult task as we look to the years ahead.
Thank you, Dan. This is how cool this stuff works. Text message from Stepping Up to Leadership Cohort 22, currently at NCTC.
Ooh.
What do you see the role of field personnel in working with landscape conservation cooperatives?
Landscape conservation cooperatives, I've heard that mentioned a number of times during the week. And what we're trying to do in landscape conservation cooperatives is build scientific capacity. The capacity for us to understand a lot of what I was just talking about. How are we going to fit biological diversity and wildlife into a changing world, a changing economy? And landscape conservation cooperatives are our bid to build that scientific capacity so that we can better inform the decisions, the choices that we have to make as we go forward. So I think our field structure needs to be intimately involved in that process of not only building that capacity, but they need to be that capacity. Biologists, geneticists, ecologists, botanists, those people are within our field structure. And so going back to what I said about personal responsibility, the question to ask of an LCC is not, what can you do for me? The question to ask of an LCC is, how can I be a part of this? How can I bring my expertise to this endeavor? How can I contribute to this? Because the idea is that we will build shared and networked capacity. So I think without our field structure, without the field employees of our state partners and other federal agency partners, the enterprise of landscape conservation cooperatives will not work. So it's entirely dependent upon the experts within our field structure to be a part of it.
Thank you. All right, one last one probably here. And then look around the room a little bit, and then you have to guess who sent this as well when you're done. Can you talk about the importance of communication and new technology to our mission?
Yeah, Michael Gale, are you out there? When I first came to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, it was Molly Beatty who asked me to come and join her team at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And I came as the Assistant Director for External Affairs. And so all of a sudden I had this communications capacity underneath me, and I knew nothing about communications. But Molly had high expectations that the Fish and Wildlife Service would begin to advance itself. And because she recognized that the challenges that we were facing, that we would simply not be successful unless we could better communicate with the American people. And we could increase our transparency. And so she asked at that point in time that we begin an effort to kind of revolutionize, transform our communication capacity. At that time, we had a few people in each region. We called them PAOs, Public Affairs Officers. And they were a talented group of people, but there were only a few of them. So we started an effort to really transform the way we think about communications, and also to begin to ask our field structure to hire people with communication capacity. And I think that's been tremendously successful. We now see that expertise spread throughout the organization, not within external affairs offices, although we have built and need to continue to build our capacity within the Washington office, within the regional offices. But again, we need that capacity to be integrated throughout the organization, throughout our field structure. Because as we look to the future, a lot of the things that we've seen here this week, communication moves so much faster in today's world. Public opinion gets shaped in seconds, not in minutes and hours or days. It gets formed in seconds. And we need to be able to communicate at the same speed, or we'll get left behind, or our message will not get across. And so I think that that needs to be a priority as we move forward together. All of us need to be thinking about how we can improve our ability to communicate with the American people. And because I think there also are a lot of people that are not going to be connected with nature in the ways that we have known, the way that I knew as a young boy, the way that most of you have probably known. They're not, despite all of our efforts and all of our partners' efforts, there are many people who are not going to have those same opportunities. So we need to find new ways using technology and other means to connect them to the natural world. So I think it's going to be vital as we go forward, Greg.
Thank you, Kyla, for that question.
Kyla.
All right. We're good. So we have one more order of business to do.
All right.
We're going to stop with the questions, and I think Rebecca's going to join us up here. Come on up. All right, what we are going to be doing right now is we are actually going to be signing the charter to begin the process of implementing the vision. And Mr. Ashe, we are going to put this in your hand. You are going to be signing the charter that is put on an iPad right here. And people in the crowd are going to get to see you as you sign.
Wow. All right. No, they're not.
Maybe not. This is one of those, you know, that it worked back there. Let's let Rebecca. There we go.
You did there. All right. Can I get rid of that? All right. Will it work now? All right. 7, 15, 11. All right.
Now you have to hand that to me. You're supposed to pick it up, hand it to me,
Pick it up. All yours now.
all right. Words into actions.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.